And how many of you bring the ball to the sideline, force to the outside? How many of you influence to the middle? How many of you don't influence? More than half. That's good. All right, so now, we know we're going to teach one thing here. Jerry Sloan, one of the winningest coaches, one of the best coaches ever in the NBA. I found out from one of his players last summer, he teaches, I coached against him for 30 years, he teaches bringing the ball to the middle of the floor. Well, you can't win in the NBA bringing the ball to the middle of the floor. Only 1,100 times he did, okay? But very rare do we see that, because we don't want good dribblers in the middle of the floor. But that's what he believed in, and you know what? He was committed to that, and he told those guys, you're going to do it that way, and that's the way he's going to do it. And he has good players, and he got it. So it doesn't matter, but he had a philosophy. And if you have a philosophy to force to the outside, doesn't mean you're going to stop anyone either. You know, it's how you teach it. How are you going to play passing an advanced pass, a guard forward pass? Are you a team that's going to deny, like Miami, or are you going to play off and in the gaps? That question you have to answer. There's no right or no wrong. It's based on your philosophy and your personnel. How are you going to defend different cuts? Flex cuts, UCLA cuts, cross screens inside. How are you going to defend that? How are you going to defend strong side baseline, strong side what we call pin downs, screen downs, back picks and for lobs? How are you going to defend all that? You better have a philosophy. Your kids better understand that. And then how are you going to defend the post? We're going to front the post. You're going to play behind it. You're going to play top side 3/4. What are you going to do? Now the guy gets the ball in the post. Are we going to trap? If we're going to trap, who are we trapping from? The passer? Are we going to trap on the dribble and attack on the dig? Are we going to attack from the top? Where are we coming from? That's what you have to know. You can't make that stuff up the day of the game. I know so many coaches that now day of the game they're saying, okay, we're going to trap from the top, but they've never practiced it. This has to happen in your preseason. And your team, whatever you're going to do, has to be well drilled in it. And I think that's one of the biggest mistakes, that coaches change their defense for a special opponent. The players are confused because they say, we've never done that before. Why, if it's so good, why the heck are we learning it today? Especially if you've taught them. Don't ask them their opinion before you've taught them. But once they have, because you know what? If it doesn't work, then you can make adjustments. Because sometimes we used to, if we knew we had to trap Karl Malone in the low post, we would not start the game that way. Because if that didn't work, there was no plan B. So what we would do is just try to, and Patrick Ewing was a monster, you know, in the early 90s. And we would go into play, and the question, Chuck and I would always go, should we trap him? Should we not trap him? Should we wait till he dribbles? Should we, you know, we would always have this decision. And one night we were going to play, and it's on NBC back then, national TV, and Chuck and I are trying to say, our charter broke down in Charlotte. We got in at 4:30 in the morning. We're playing at 12 noon on national TV. No shoot around, no nothing. We have our pregame meeting. We go over like 5 minutes of stuff. And Chuck says, how do we want to start on Ewing? I said, I don't know. He says, neither do I. So we just told him to play him straight out to start the game. I mean, you talk about no coaching. We just threw him out there. And you know who our center was? Benoit Benjamin. All right? It wasn't Sam Bowie, it was Benoit Benjamin. All right? And this guy was awful. And so the next thing you know, we're down 20, we're up 28 points at halftime. 28 on national TV. And I walked in and said, you want to change our coverage? He said, don't start coaching now, Brendan. Let's just leave it like it is, you know. And so sometimes Patrick couldn't make a shot. So we would have been trapping a guy that just was off that day. Our charter got home late. He was probably out, you know. So it balances out sometimes with the guys that you're playing against.